Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of Metcalf's Movie Journal. This is the show where I do quick reviews for the movies that I watch, give them a score out of 10, and then add them to my list. So let's see what movie I'm reviewing today. On June 10th, I watched RoboCop, which came out in 1987, and then again in 2014, but this review is for the original. This is a prime example of a movie limited by its release date. I really hope the more modern reboot will be better. Having better technology to work with to bring the Robo Super Cop to life can only be a good thing, because this one clearly did not have the technology to make it work. The idea of a dead cop, or a dead anyone for that matter, being brought back to life, better, faster, stronger, obviously isn't an original one, but there's definitely still enough potential in the setup, especially for a stupid action movie like this, to make a genuinely fun and exciting movie. However, so much of whether the story can be told effectively hinges on being able to create a realistic, badass-looking RoboCop, and other cool-looking robots for him to fight. It's so hard to believe that anyone ever actually thought RoboCop looked cool, but apparently they did. And as silly as he looks, the other robots this movie portrays are even worse, especially the mech warrior thing, the Ed 209, which is responsible for maybe the most famous scene in the movie, with it comically tumbling down the stairs. That scene alone did so much to hurt the film, since the over-the-top violence wasn't really leaving a lot of room for humor, so it's jarring to say the least. It's far from the only example of a scene that may have worked on paper, or in a conversation, but on camera and with the limited technology of the day, it could only end up looking like the mess we got. The magic of something like Jurassic Park, which came out only 6 years later, or Terminator 2 4 years later, was that they hid what they couldn't do well, and accentuated what they could do well. Whereas with RoboCop, it seemed like they spent all the money on these big, barely functioning props, and then pointed the camera directly at them, making it impossible to ignore how bad they looked. It's hard to even say who the lead actor here was, since the cop-turned-robot, Murphy, first name, last name, who knows, almost had no chance to establish his character, before he's reduced to a talking toaster. I'm currently rewatching Fringe, and I just saw the actor Peter Weller in an episode, so I know he has some talent, but there was never any chance to show it here. I would guess that just in terms of number of lines of dialogue, the true lead might have been Kurtwood Smith, as the lead antagonist Clarence, who does an effective enough job as the villain, but it's hard to see it as anything more than Red Foreman with curse words. The old burden of the typecast television actor, but it's a very real thing. I probably had a bit too much of the plot of this one spoiled by one particular episode of Bob's Burgers, but I doubt it was ever going to surprise me either way, so I can't really be upset about it. Kurtwood was probably the best actor in the whole thing, which isn't a great bar to set, but he showed some real potential for a rough, hard-nosed badass that would eventually lead to the great turn as Red Foreman, and since nobody already had that image of him when this first came out, I'm sure he was even more of a standout back then. I'm guessing most of what keeps the score for this one as high as it is, still sitting at 7.5, has to do mostly with nostalgia, and people scoring it without actually going back to watch it again, because I have a hard time believing people like this one as much as they say they do. Aside from some over-the-top gore, with people getting their limbs blown off by ridiculously unbelievable gunplay, I really don't see the appeal. That, or there's just that many people out there who honestly like the bad ones, because that's what this is. I ended up giving it a 2 out of 10, and it landed at number 1,391 on my list, putting it right here, in between Agent Cody Banks and Child Play 2. And as always, thanks for watching. Hey everyone, thanks for watching another edition of Metcalf's Movie Journal. Be sure to click like and subscribe for new videos every week. And if you have a movie that you really want me to watch, be sure to drop me a comment.